Namaste, welcome, and aloha. Welcome to the verse titled Knowledge of the Absolute, Realized Understanding Emerges. We've learned how consciousness becomes purified, attaining clarity and joy when established in goodness. Now, this verse reveals what emerges from that purified state direct, realized knowledge of the Absolute Truth, titled Knowledge of the Absolute. This verse describes how true understanding arises naturally for one whose mind is satisfied and who is free from material entanglement. This is about realized knowledge, direct insight, understanding that transforms. Let us explore this profound teaching. First, the verse in its original Sanskrit, Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogda. Bhagavad tattva vijnanam muktasagasya jayate. These words describe how realized knowledge emerges. Let us understand what they reveal. Now, let us go through the raw form of English translation of the verse. The translation: when the mind is thus satisfied and joyful through the practice of devotional service bhakti yoga to the Supreme Lord, one naturally becomes detached from all material association. For such a liberated soul, the realized knowledge of the absolute truth of the personality of Godhead fully manifests. His describes the emergence of direct understanding. Let us explore what this means. Now, let us look at some core teaching of this verse. This verse describes how realized knowledge of the absolute arises. Let us understand the key elements. First, Eva prasanna manasash, when the mind is thus satisfied and joyful. Evam, thus, in this way. Prasanna manasash, of one whose mind is satisfied, joyful, clear. This refers to the previous verse: when consciousness is purified, established in goodness, it attains clarity and joy, prasidati. This is the foundation, a satisfied, clear mind. Second, Bhagavad Bhakti Yogata, through the practice of devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Bhagavat, to the Supreme Lord. Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion, loving service. Tata, from this, through this. This is the method, Bhakti Yoga, devotional practice. Not just intellectual study, but loving engagement with the Supreme. Third, Mukta Sangasya, for one who is free from material association. Mukta Sangasya, of one who is liberated from attachment, free from material entanglement. This is a natural result. When the mind is satisfied through Bhakti Yoga, attachment to material things naturally falls away. You become Mukta Sangha, free from entanglement. Fourth, Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Jayate, realized knowledge of the absolute truth arises. Bhagavat Tattva, the absolute truth, the reality of the Supreme Personality, Vijnanam, realized knowledge, direct understanding, not just theoretical. Jayate, arises, manifests, is born. This is the key. Realized knowledge arises. Not that you force it, not that you manufacture it, but that it emerges naturally from the purified state. This verse teaches: with a satisfied mind, through devotional yoga, knowledge of the absolute truth arises for one who is free from material association. The progression is beautiful: purified consciousness, satisfied mind, devotional practice, freedom from attachment, realized knowledge arises. This is not intellectual accumulation. This is direct insight. Vijnanam, realized knowledge that transforms your entire being. Now let us look at some modern scientific parallels. This ancient teaching about realized knowledge corresponds to modern understanding of how insight emerges. First, consider the phenomenon of insight, sudden understanding that reorganizes existing knowledge. Research shows that insights don't come from more information, they come from cognitive restructuring, seeing the same information in a new way. This is Vijnanam realized knowledge. Not more data, but deeper understanding. A reorganization that produces clarity. Second, consider Gestalt psychology, seeing the whole rather than parts. Sometimes you're looking at individual pieces, unable to see the pattern, then suddenly the whole emerges. You see how everything fits together. This is Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam, knowledge of the absolute truth. You see the whole, not just fragments. You understand the reality that unifies everything. Third, consider the aha moment, the experience of sudden clarity. Neuroscience shows that insights are accompanied by a burst of gamma waves in the brain, a moment of heightened neural coherence. This is Jayat, it arises. Not forced, but emerging naturally when conditions are right. Fourth, consider research on the conditions for insight. Insights are more likely when the mind is relaxed, not stressed. When there's mental space, not clutter. When you're in a positive mood, prasanna manasaj, satisfied and joyful. This is exactly what the verse describes. From a satisfied, clear mind, engaged in devotional practice, realized knowledge naturally emerges. Let us now move on to some practical application as it relates to this verse. How do we apply this teaching in our daily lives? First, recognize that deep understanding cannot be forced. You can't manufacture insight, you can't force Vijnanam, realized knowledge, but you can create conditions for it to emerge. Second, cultivate a satisfied mind, prasanna manasash. This is the foundation. When your mind is agitated, stressed, cluttered, insight cannot emerge. Through the practices we've learned, hearing, chanting, meditation, devotional service, cultivate mental satisfaction and clarity. Third, engage in devotional practice, bhakti yoga touch. This is not just intellectual study. This is loving engagement with the Supreme, reading sacred texts with devotion, meditating with love, serving with dedication. Bhakti Yoga creates the conditions for realized knowledge to arise. Fourth, allow natural detachment to develop Mukta Sangasya. Don't force detachment, don't artificially renounce things. But as your mind becomes satisfied through devotional practice, attachment naturally falls away. You become Mukta Sangha, free from entanglement, not through force, but through natural development. Fifth, create space for insight to emerge. Reduce mental clutter. Reduce information overload. Create quiet time for contemplation. Insight needs space. Vijnanam emerges in stillness, not in noise. Sixth, trust the process of natural emergence jayate. It arises, it manifests, it is born. You don't create it, you create conditions, and it emerges naturally. Be patient. Trust the process. Realize knowledge will arise when the conditions are right. Seventh, distinguish between information and realized knowledge. Information is external, Vijnanam is internal, direct, realized understanding that transforms your being. Don't confuse accumulating information with developing wisdom. Create conditions for deep understanding to emerge. Now, let us look at how this verse can help our young people. For young people, this verse offers crucial wisdom about learning and understanding. You have access to infinite information, but information is not understanding. Here's the truth, like how the solution to a difficult problem sometimes appears when you stop forcing it. Deep understanding emerges from a clear, relaxed mind. You've experienced this. You struggle with a problem for hours. Then you take a break, relax, and suddenly the solution appears. This is Vijnanam Jayate, realized knowledge arises. Not from more effort, but from the right conditions. Cultivate a satisfied mind, prasana manasash, create space for insight. Don't just accumulate information, allow deep understanding to emerge. The deepest knowledge comes not from force but from clarity. Now let us look at how this verse can help our older generation folks. For those with more life experience, this verse speaks to something you've likely discovered. You've accumulated a lifetime of information and experience, and you've probably discovered the deepest insights often come not from more information, but from quiet reflection that allows existing knowledge to reorganize into wisdom. This is Vijnanam realized knowledge, not new information, but deeper understanding of what you already know. You have the capacity for this, you have the life experience, you have the mental space. Now is the time for contemplation, for allowing the pieces to come together, for seeing the whole, not just the parts. Engage in devotional practice, bhakti yoga, create conditions for insight, allow realized knowledge to emerge. This is the wisdom of maturity, not accumulation, but integration. In conclusion, we can say. This verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam describes how realized knowledge emerges from a satisfied mind through devotional practice. For one free from material entanglement, direct knowledge of the absolute truth arises naturally. This is not intellectual accumulation. This is realized understanding that transforms your being. Cultivate a satisfied mind, engage in devotional practice, create space for insight, trust the natural emergence of realized knowledge. Deep understanding cannot be forced, but it will arise when the conditions are right. Allow it to emerge. This verse describes how realized knowledge of the absolute truth emerges naturally from a purified, satisfied mind engaged in devotional practice. Modern cognitive science validates this ancient teaching. Insights emerge from cognitive restructuring, not more information. Gestalt psychology shows we suddenly see the whole, not just parts. Aha moments occur when the mind is relaxed and clear, not stressed. This makes the teaching both ancient and contemporary, both spiritual and scientific. Deep understanding cannot be forced, but emerges naturally when conditions are right. A satisfied mind, devotional practice, freedom from entanglement, space for contemplation. The key message: create conditions for insight, trust natural emergence, allow realized knowledge to arise. Thank you for exploring this with me. Thank you, Namaste, and Mahalo for joining me in this exploration of this verse. Knowledge of the Absolute, realized understanding emerges. Now we will move on to the next verse.